There comes a point where more information just stops helping. You've listened to the podcasts, you've read the posts, you've tried the tools, you've watched the demos, you've seen the headlines, and yet something still feels unsettled. And that's because awareness alone does not create clarity. At some point, you stop needing more exposure and you start needing a way to actually operate. Welcome to episode 127 of Instant Expertise, Marketing plus AI. I'm Yvette Brown, co-founder of X Promos. I became an entrepreneur at 23 when I started a promotions agency with my then 29-year-old business partner, Shari Nomadi. Together, we've built campaigns for global brands, and today we're focusing on business decision confidence in the age of AI. We do that by keeping humans accountable, technology understandable, and outcomes measurable.
And I'm Shari Nomadi. Yvette and I rarely think alike, but we do always end up in the same place. And this week feels like one of those moments where the truth gets simpler. People often think that the biggest decision around AI is, hey, which tool should I use? Or how much should I automate? And what should I learn first? And, those matter to some extent, but there's a more important decision underneath all of them. How are you going to operate in this new environment? Reactive? Intentional? That choice changes everything on course.
Yeah, because whether people realize it or not, they are already operating inside an AI-shaped world. We already know that work is changing, learning is changing, communication is changing, and decision-making is changing. And when an environment changes, neutrality becomes an illusion. Because guess what? You're still making choices. Even if your choice is avoidance, or even if your choice is delay, or your choice that hoping clarity is going to arrive later, these are still choices. And like all choices, as we've been told since we were children, they have consequences.
Oh, yes, they do. And that's what people often miss. Not choosing feels passive, but even passivity does have direction. If you keep reacting, you will build reactive habits. If you keep postponing understanding, then confusion will compound. If you keep outsourcing judgment, then your confidence weakens. There is no freeze frame button here. Time just keeps moving forward. Systems keep changing. Your relationship to all of this is being shaped either way.
Shape or be shaped. Although to
Yep.
be fair, I kind of wish there was a freeze frame button. That would be kind of
Yeah.
cool at certain times for sure. Unfortunately, we
Yeah.
don't have that. I think this is why so many people feel this sort of like low grade tension right now. They know something meaningful is happening. It's happening, something's happening. And they know it affects them, but they haven't quite decided how they want to meet it. So they kind of hover, right? They, are just kind of skim articles. They save some posts. They'll try some random tools. They'll do a little dabbling. They stay kind of loosely informed, maybe subscribe to a couple newsletters. And, at the surface, that feels responsible. But oftentimes it's just sophisticated procrastination. And Lord knows I know a thing or two about procrastination.
Wow, you've even labeled it sophisticated
I
procrastination.
know, right?
Now that is a new one.
Thank you.
Oh, but that's why it is so easy to identify. By hovering, it's understandable. But if this landscape feels noisy, why commit? If the messaging feels exaggerated, why trust it? If everyone sounds certain, then why join the chaos? Those are fair reactions, but eventually skepticism can become its own trap. You don't need to believe all the hype, but you do need a position to stand on.
Yeah, that's totally true. I mean, I guess why bother could be a position, but it's not really
Yeah.
ideal. You actually need a position. You don't need blind enthusiasm, nor do you need to have blind resistance. And we see both in the AI landscape every single day. You just need a position, a defensible position. You need a way to think. You need a framework for being able to evaluate what actually matters and to be able to get a clear sense of where value exists and where it doesn't. And that's really what changes the experience. Because once you have a position, you stop being pushed around in different directions by every single headline out there.
And emotionally, that's really huge. Without a position, every update can feel so destabilizing. And new tool launches, you start to wonder if you're missing something, and then someone posts a workflow, and you start to wonder, oh my gosh, am I that far behind? A company announces layoffs or adoption, and you wonder, well, what does that mean for me? But when you have structure, you can absorb information differently. You don't panic, you just sort.
Yeah, and to be honest, sorting is way underrated. You know, people think power comes from knowing everything, but oftentimes power comes from just filtering things correctly. That means knowing what deserves your attention and knowing what is actually noise. It's knowing what applies in your world and what does not. That is actually operating at a level of maturity.
Yeah, and maturity matters because AI creates so much abundance of content, abundance of options, abundance of opinions. Abundance starts to sound positive until you realize abundance without discernment becomes overwhelm. So, the winning skill is not endless consumption, it's actually intelligent selection.
Yeah, I love that, Sherry. It's so very true. You know, I have to admit, I've fallen victim at times to that abundance, right? Because you can just do so much with AI and you keep going down that rabbit hole until you get what you until you get to this point where you realize that what you really just need is clarity, focus, and priority. And, you know, clarity is not something you wait for. Clarity is actually something you build, right? You build clarity by naming categories. You build it by understanding where the value shows up. You build it by recognizing where your own judgment matters. And you build it by learning how to evaluate instead of react. And once you build it, clarity compounds.
Absolutely. Because then each new development becomes easier to place. Instead of starting from zero every time, you can start from structure. That saves energy, that saves attention, and it really saves confidence. And confidence matters more than people realize because confident people experiment differently. They're calm, they're more selective, they're less desperate, and they're way more strategic.
Yeah. And, you know, desperation in any situation creates bad adoption, right? People adopt tools because other people are talking about it. They end up automating things that they really shouldn't, or certainly without the guardrails in place. They measure speed instead of also measuring quality. They chase novelty instead of leverage. And those things are ultimately expensive. Sometimes it's financially expensive, and other times it's cognitively expensive.
And the opposite of that is true too, though. Calm clarity creates better adoption. You know why you're using something, you know what success looks like, you know where it fits, and you know what it cannot do. That relationship is so much healthier, and healthier relationships scale better.
It's 100% true. And, you know, over these last 6 weeks, we've uncovered something important, right? You were never behind. You never lacked ability. You were navigating noise without structure. Everybody is. in this whole AI space with the prompts and the, the noise and the prognostications about the future. There's just so much noise. And you were being taught tools without really being given a context. And like many people, you may have underestimated how much your own judgment matters, because we sort of were given a sense that it didn't matter. And we're here to tell you it 100% does. But now the question changes. What are you going to do now with that level of understanding?
Because insight without decision becomes entertainment. And a lot of people are entertained right now. They consume smart takes, they nod along, they feel briefly inspired, and then nothing changes. And that cycle is comfortable, but it doesn't build advantage.
It's 100% you right there, Sherry, on so many levels. That's great. What are you going to do with that?
Yep.
So, the advantage really comes when you understand this behavior and when you start changing it. It's like when you stop dabbling and you actually start designing, when you stop guessing about things and you actually start evaluating, when you stop outsourcing your thinking and you start strengthening it. That is the move.
And it doesn't require becoming an AI expert. That label scares people unnecessarily. You don't need to become an expert in everything. You need to become competent in what matters most to you. Clear in your judgment, intentional in your use. That is far more realistic and way more valuable.
Yeah, you totally said it, Sherry. And really, that is why we built the human AI value map. We didn't build it to create more noise in the marketplace. We actually created it to reduce that noise. We didn't want to impress anybody with the complexity. We wanted to help people operate with clarity in this craziness. And, we didn't want to turn people to the prompt collectors. We wanted to help everybody understand where value lives, where they fit, and how to move forward intelligently with AI.
Because once someone sees the system, they stop feeling like the system is happening to them. And that emotional shift is so powerful. You move from passive to active, from anxious to oriented, from uncertain to extremely capable.
So, yeah, you can keep guessing. Many people will. You can just keep reacting. Lots of people do that as well. You can keep hoping it all becomes clear later, or you can decide to build clarity now. You can decide to understand the landscape. You can decide to strengthen your judgment, and you can decide to operate intentionally. That choice is available.
And the people who make it earlier usually benefit longer because clarity feels a lot better than just guessing.
Yeah, well said, Sherry. So, you can keep piecing together this one headline, that little tool, and attack this dabbling one guess at a time, or you can build real clarity right now. The Human AI Value Map is just a 3-week course, 3 1-hour sessions designed to help you understand where AI creates value, where you create value, and how to operate with confidence inside this new environment. Our enrollment is now open on Maven. So if you're ready to stop guessing, we would love to have you join us. And we're going to put the details in the show notes. As always, thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.